Hey, y'all. You like my snazzy music? John Duffin here with Duffin Media and Duffin Coaching. It is great to have everyone here today. Folks, thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in and keep filing in. I'll be thrilled as you're joining along with the fun. So, folks, I am double checking myself here. Beautiful. Okay. We are live on Facebook Live. We are live on LinkedIn Live, and we are live on YouTube. It is an absolute pleasure for you to join me, for me to be here. And I'm terribly grateful that you've taken the time for you to that you've joined me. So I'm really appreciative. Hey, folks, here's what we've been doing for the last few days. What we've had the chance to do is simply this. I've delivered some tips. Each day, the whole intention and point here, folks, is to do the following. It is to optimize your communications by leveraging your voice. The idea is to bring these tricks, tips to work, meaning everyone speaks for a living. A lot of people speak for a living. We're all asking for something. And the fact of the matter is, whether it's in sales, whether it's in executive management, whether it is asking you for a promotion, a raise, whatever the case may be, the fact of the matter is you're asking, your voice matters. So the whole deal here is, regardless of where you are, the intention, literally the intention is this, to give you 3 practical tips. That was easy to say, right? Practical. Easy to say. Oh, and he speaks for a living. I do. But the fact of the matter is, it's 3 practical tips that you can walk away with. So this afternoon, you can literally go back to work and be put into play. Here's the question I ask every day. We're on day 3. Don't sweat it if it's your first day here. I'm thrilled that you're here. Here's the question I ask everybody. Literally this, which is, have you ever had a conversation, a presentation, or an encounter in business where you thought you were doing great and everything seemed to be rolling along, but you received surprisingly negative feedback and you just couldn't figure out why? Has it ever happened to anyone? I'm going to give you a specific example today as to when it happened to me. You'll need to stay tuned. And folks, speaking of staying tuned, you stick around with me to the end. I'm strongly anticipating will be about 30 to 40 minutes, no more than that. And 30 to 40 minutes at the most. Stick around to the end. I'm going to put an offer in front of you, something cool, but you got to stick around to the end and you don't have to buy anything. Okay. So should be something great. Christopher Petruski. Yo, yo, yo. It is so nice to see you, man. Thank you for being here. I'm grateful that you invested the time. So that sense of getting the negative feedback, and you're like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And my response often is it your voice? And I'm going to make a couple of cases today as to why I believe it is, and remedies as to what you can do in terms of alleviating or minimizing those challenges so that you can, and here's today's deal, speak like a boss. Today, we're going to talk about speaking like a boss, whether you are a boss, you aspire to be a boss, you're speaking to the boss. These are all techniques for developing a strong and authentic personal brand. And by the way, that brand is going to align with your professional goals and your values too. So keeping that in mind, folks, I got 3 tips for you. I'm going to go to 1 right away. And do know this. Anything you want to add in the comments, drop it in. I'm checking this out like my buddy Chris through the comment. And any questions, any feedback, any sort of disagreement, hop on in. But here's your first hack of the day. And I'm calling it boss tip number 1. Preparation is the separation. So let me give you the situation. Then I'll give you an example. Then I'll give you the hack, the tip, so to speak. So that quote, by the way, and I see an open quotation mark. I'm sorry, I left that one out at the end. But the fact is, that quote is from NFL quarterback Russell Wilson. If Pete Kolash happens to be on this call today, high performance coach, he's used this quote and I've taken it from him. So my strong suggestion is to make certain that you are actively seeking to improve your presentation skills, your public speaking skills, often the same thing. Making sure that you're crafting strong content messages so that you can deliver impactful presentations and manage your stage presence like a boss. So let me give you a situation that I encountered. And I got to tell you, this pays off huge. All right. The story. I've had the chance to speak in front of clients. I've had the chance to speak in front of audiences on stages. Let me give you this. I'm going to give you two quick examples. Here's the first one. From a client perspective, I got to tell you, I was almost getting like emotional as I was finishing up prep for today. And I'll tell you why. I was thinking of some of the people that really have helped me. Here's a handful. I know I'm leaving people out and I'm embarrassed that I'm going to, but here's a handful I thought about just in a few moments. Names: Kirk Kruger, John Kennedy, I'm so sorry, John Kenny, who I love to death. Catherine Erb, Diana Canova, Kelly McGee. That's just a few people who have guided me in terms of client opportunities. What do I mean? Very often, I work for a strong, mega, multicultural broadcast company. Broadcast, radio, digital, streaming, what have you. Here's the deal. We were delivering presentations all day long, every day. That was part of our job. Close revenue, help teams deliver sales revenue, close deals, and deliver presentations to key clients and agencies. I remember some of those people that I mentioned. Don Kearns, God almighty, Don Kearns is absolutely there on that list too. These individuals made certain that we were communicating before the actual meeting so that I would be in alignment with the client, with the agency as to what the overall theme of the presentation would be. Often, I would send my slides days in advance. Here's why. You never want to be caught off guard. The last thing you want to do is waste people's times or not deliver the expectations. Very often in fast-paced sales, you're saying something to the client. So you have a meeting 3:00 on Thursday. You make the confirmation call, email, text, whatever. End of day Tuesday for your Wednesday 3 p.m. meeting, which, by the way, makes no sense. And then you say something like, hey, do you want me to bring anything? What would you like me to bring? It's a really reactive way to present. And I would strongly suggest, if you're doing that, to stop doing that, because the clients aren't often going to jump in and say, we need this, we'd like that, we don't want this. They'll typically say something like, just bring an update, just bring, and you never are set up for success. Here's a bonus tip I'm going to give you as to how you can make this work. Keep this thought in mind. If you're near a pen, write this down. Improv is not winging it. Again, the quote, mine, improv is not winging it. Author John Duffin, I think. So, one of the reasons I bring that up, winging it, speaking from the heart, stream of consciousness, you will get murderized on a lot of key presentations because people don't want to see you wing it. They want to have an idea, an understanding of where you're going. And guess what? When you have that clear agreement, and that's your word, a clear agreement with the audience, the host of the event, the client, the agency, when you have an agreement, you are then able to properly improvise. And we're going to get to those next two hacks in 1 second in regards to what you can do. But the key, so that you don't lose your cool, so that you don't start fumbling, mumbling, I thought, or worse. And we're going to get to the next tip in 1 second. Or worse. We don't want that. I'm going backwards. Don't do that. One size does not fit all. Folks, this is when you're going to read the room as you're speaking. So you get this big meeting. I've been lucky in my career. I've delivered major meetings. I've been a part of groups that have delivered presentations to some of the largest automotive clients in America. You would know them. You would know all the names. But the fact of the matter is, often you're not delivering by yourself. And that is, you've heard an expression, you never have to go it alone. Well, the fact of the matter is, you don't want to go it alone with these big meetings. But you got to read the room. Not everybody wants to hear what the last automotive client wanted. Here's a specific example. Forgive me for laughing. I used to present in a myriad of times. I would hop on planes a couple times. I would fly pretty much. There was a stretch of several years where I was flying, let's say 3 weeks out of 4. And you would present like maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Get off the plane, you'd immediately be heading to a client meeting or lunch, and you would just go. Maybe you had 10 presentations. Boom, 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 boom. Often you weren't getting the help of the clients or the teams in regards to the specificity. You might hear something like, oh, just bring a market update. And folks, not to throw jargon around, a market update was simply this. Tell us what's new. These are clients in other cities and states, and they would in essence be saying, tell us what's new in Philadelphia. Well, that leaves a lot of room for interpretation, folks. So we would prepare these basic generic market updates. I live in Philadelphia, so I would often represent Philadelphia. I've represented other cities too. Damn proud of it. But for instance, well, Philadelphia has 8 million people, and it's so many counties, and it's actually a tri-state Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and southern Delaware. And honest to God, it was as boring as you could imagine. And I just gave you maybe the first page of 120. And the population is this. And so when you were stuck and you really didn't know what to talk about, you would bring the ever popular market update. Go Phils, Michael Plishka. And so the fact of the matter is, and the Phillies indeed. And so the reason one size does not fit all. Here was the example. I go into one of the largest ad agencies in the United States. It was in Texas. It was in Houston, Texas. And I remember I'm going into the agency, and they had a myriad of huge accounts, right? And you often got a half hour to 45 minutes. And that was it. And then you wouldn't see them again for maybe 6 months, a year, ever. So this was your shot. And we could not get communication back from the agency. So I don't know what to do. It is the 4 o'clock meeting. I've been pitching all day long. Meeting, lunch, meeting. And you're trying to customize. But back then I wasn't as meticulous as I am now. And I literally used that crutch of just bring what's new in Philadelphia. So we get to the conference room. It's 4 o'clock, and I'm running on fumes at this point, but I have a fair amount of energy, so I'm ready to roll. And I start delivering the presentation. And here's what happens. I'm going to get this thing off the screen, right? So that you can see me a little bit. Here, I'm going to imitate one of the clients. So I'm speaking, and the market is this, and the population is that, and the culture is this, and and there's more. Here's the client. And I don't mean I think sleeping, I mean sleeping. Not snoring, thank God, because that would have just freaked me out. But this was close enough. So I start getting unglued. What did I do? I talked louder and I talked faster. Neither of those worked. She's, I am mortified. So we just wrap it up. And thanks for having us. And now you know more about Philadelphia. All right, we'll see ourselves out. Bye bye. And that was the end. And that was awful. So, even worse, I leave that meeting. Again, one of the largest advertising agencies in the United States. How did you know they had their own mammoth, big, all glass building in Texas? So everything's bigger in Texas, massive, right? Gleaming glass. And I'm leaving, and I am, you would have thought, highly embarrassed. No, I'm angry. I'm angry because I'm acting like it was their problem, their fault. I can't believe, I'm talking to a colleague, I can't believe that they were so rude and blah, blah, blah. Okay, folks, we talked about the read the room. Okay, here's the hack. Read the damn room, for God's sake. Read the room. If somebody is literally not interested in your boring general presentation that you didn't bother to customize when you had ample time to do so, well, that's on you. Here's why when I was talking about improvising is not freelancing. When you are properly prepared, you don't get unglued. Your voice doesn't start to give yourself away. Here's examples of sounds or thoughts. Folks, drop a note in the chat. When you're uncomfortable, sounds like a weird question, but humor me. When you're uncomfortable, how do you sound? Or better yet, when you hear someone who is uncomfortable, how do they typically sound? They can sound tense. They can lose their confidence. They start to have doubt. There's a technique I want you to catch yourself when you do this. Try not to. A lot of people, most people will do this on occasion. Try not to. And it's called upspeak, which means you start to ask unnecessary questions or your statements become questions. Do not use upspeak in a sales presentation. And I'll use the example. Read the room. One size does not fit all. Adapt your communication style to different audiences. Do you want me to bring donuts or sandwiches? It sounds as if you doubt yourself. It doesn't mean you can't ask questions. It means when you start to lose your confidence, when you start to lose your cool, Dave Walsh is a known business coach and voiceover coach. And he, in his book course curriculum, The True Tell, says the following: your voice is your last pass. This is where you're going to give yourself away, is your voice. People hear it, they feel it. So while you're reading the room, go back to tip 1 for today. You're properly prepared so you can be fully engaged and present. And then tip 2, if something is not going perfectly, you don't start to detonate or freak out or ask, I hope this is okay. Isn't that what you wanted? Or I thought, or sound tense or irritated. You can't. You're asking for money. Your company is counting on you. You need to provide yourself a living. And often, if you're a manager and you've got teams and you're sending them out and they don't know this, you got to make them aware. The preparation is critical. It does impact your voice. Reading the room, if something changes, you can literally ask questions that are not judgy, but don't sound like you're doubting yourself. Oh, would you rather an either or for the person that was starting to sleep? Here's an either or, which I wish I had thought about. one of a million different options I could have chosen. One, oh, listen, I know it's late in the day. I can certainly abbreviate the basics, or we could talk about something specific as it relates to your client. Two choices. I teach a this or that when I'm leading courses. It gives them the opportunity to be included, obviously feel included, but then you are reading the room. You wouldn't say, hey, I see you sleeping over there. What's your problem? What you could say, what you could do is when you're in a pressure situation, release some of the pressure, but don't do it in a way that your voice gives you away. I thought I was doing okay. No, no. Instead, give somebody a choice. Look, I know it's late. Or, if it is late, if you've got a large group, and you may, that there was 12 people at that meeting. What could I have done? If nothing was working, focus on the other 11 people. Literally 12 people around a conference room table. I can't take my eyes off this one person. Deer in the headlights. Does it work? So the trick is this. As you're prepared, you read the room. You lean into your confidence, which enables you without coming off as bossy or hardened. Ask an engaging question. Hey, look, I know this is late in the day. The last thing I want to do is go through 100 pages of something that doesn't really matter. I'd love to get the chance to talk about something in specifics. I'm just going to make up a client here. We could talk about Audio-Technica microphones, or we could talk about the Sweetwater soundproofing. Which one would you? We could address either one of those. Which would you prefer I do? And by the way, even asking the question, you don't sound in doubt. All right. Tip number three, I call it watering the plants. It's a personal favorite of mine. You'll be like, water the plants? Well, you should, especially in the summer. But here's what I'm talking about. When you're speaking, sales meeting, sales presentation, larger scale, speaking to audiences, folks, it really helps to align yourself with the people that are cheering for you. Now, tough to do on Zoom if you're doing a webinar and it's technically just you and written comments. But the fact of the matter is, here's the deal. A lot of presentations are not to one person. They're actually great, by the way, because you really get the chance to engage and lock in a good way with an individual. They're also way more forgiving. If you lose your place, lose your thought, lose your voice, lose your momentum, a singular person will help you get it back. But when you're speaking in a group, it often is difficult. So you find the favorites. I'm telling you, if you've got, say, 4 or more people, and this is 4 to 4,000, all right, and anywhere in the middle. But if you've got 4 or more people, why it doesn't look like you're playing favorites. Find the one that's smiling. Find the one that's nodding along with you. And work with them for a minute in the beginning. What does that do? It enables you to get comfortable, true, and right. You've done all of this hard work. You've done the preparation that we've talked about before. You've read the room. You see what's going on. And now you're going to find your favorites for a minute or two simply to get your place. Get comfortable. Get confident. What do I say? Get great at nonverbal communication, which includes the body language, which includes the eye contact, which helps you modulate your voice. I have a loud speaking voice, which is not always good. It might sound confident, but to some people, it might sound like I'm yelling at them. Now, do you like being yelled at? Most people don't. Most people don't. So you find your favorites. I had the chance, I'm lucky, had 2 examples that were great. The automotive meetings, there were a few that were in large groups of people. There were a couple of key board meetings. You found the favorites immediately. It's not hard. You don't need to get every favorite. Just find a couple. And if you can place them throughout the room strategically, what do I mean? Find somebody in the very back, if you can see that far. Find somebody front left. Maybe you find somebody front right. Maybe you find somebody back right. Maybe you find somebody in the center and just adjust and literally adjust your eyes to them. To me, I talked about yesterday, every presentation is a series of small conversations. They're not speeches. They are not oratory events. They're a series of small conversations. And that's how you bring a big uncomfortable situation very comfortable in the beginning. So here, let me give you the example. I was at a wedding 100 years ago. My cousin Diane Hoffman is one of my very favorite people. She is now killing it on YouTube. She reads children's stories under the YouTube name of Poppy Reads. Unbelievably great. She's one of the coolest, kindest, smartest, funniest, best people in the world. First wedding I ever went to. I'm in my 20s. So you can imagine it's been just a little while since that wedding occurred. And I was asked to give a reading, and I'd never done that before. So for some weird reason, I thought of this. And I remember saying to my cousin Diane, I'm going to keep looking at you. And if you think I'm speaking too loud or if I'm whispering too much, just give me a hand signal and I'm going to follow you. And I'm just going to keep looking over at you if you're okay with it. Sure. So I would start to look over, and I'm very grateful because she would be doing the following: big smile on her face and a thumbs up. So I knew it was okay. Find people. It may not be that overt, but find the friendly places. The plants. If you know people, why do I call it the plants? If you know somebody, make sure you know where they are. Plant them somewhere. Oh, Josh, why don't you sit over there? That's not always the case. But I'll give you example number 2, which, speaking of Josh, my buddy Josh Buchter, who is the publisher and the head honcho of Philadelphia and Bucks County Real Producers Magazine and Events, the Wolf of Broad Street, gave me my first public speaking opportunity. So it was a great one. And I was speaking at Rivers Casino in Philadelphia. I was the host and MC for an event, and I'd never done it in my life. And I did these things I will literally do in terms of a quick summary, in terms of overall needing to speak like a boss, because wasn't just my personal brand. It was aligning with their events. So what did I do? Prepared like crazy. Josh and I communicated at least a dozen times. Name pronunciations, directions. I literally did a rough take of Josh's whole speech, just rattled it off into a microphone and said to Josh, here's where I'm headed. It's a really rough cut. I just recorded into a mic. Am I headed in the right direction? He said I was, so we moved on. And that confidence of knowing and preparing enabled me to read the room. But let me give you one quick thing, man, which is, by the way, I have to show this quote. I like it. From my buddy, Michael Plishka. How do you water the plants when it's only 1 or 2 folks in a meeting and they've both sucked on lemons soaked in laxatives? Be fully prepared. Ask a lot of questions when you can. Literally engage. Do not just start prattling on. It's the best I can give you, Mike. I'd love that question. I love it. But like that person sleeping, ask them a this or that question, which doesn't have to do with putting them on the spot or making them uncomfortable. This is where your preparation helps. Hey, look, I pulled this together. Often I'm wrong. Often needs change. Would you like me to head in this direction or that direction? And it helps. It's sometimes, but if they're sucking on those lozenges, sometimes you're on your own, right? But I'll go back to that situation. So I get to the event, did all this preparation back and forth with my buddy Josh Buchter, and now it's time, and it's the day of the event. And I get to the stage, and I'd never seen the Rivers Casino stage before. We couldn't get access to it till the day of the event. You're very welcome, buddy. And I see the stage, and I see the seating, and and the seating goes way further back than I'm thinking. Way further back. There's going to be way more people. I just didn't process it. And the stage is like a full-on concert stage. So I'm a wreck at this point in regards to literally, what am I going to do? And I start becoming a nerve job. Yeah, prepared like crazy. I'm comfortable to be able to read the room. But as tick, 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 and I'm ready to go live, I open the show and I'm going 10 minutes long. So the nerves come into place. This is when I talk about watering the plants. I knew that there were a couple of people, I think it was 3 or 4 that I intentionally found. I knew where they were sitting. My buddy, my colleague, Christopher Stevens from Keller Williams, Philadelphia. My pal, Ian McKee. My dear friend, Chad Naxon. I'm looking for my friend, Emilio DeChico. I am looking for several people. I only needed a few. I knew where they were sitting, and I started to focus on them when I began the event. And you remember that part about when I'm talking about my cousin Diane and she's helping me modulate my voice? Well, I didn't ask for that, but when people get uncomfortable. Did you ever see when somebody's trying to present and you see a nervous smile? Mm-hmm. Whether it's on the person speaking or someone listening. Mm-hmm. I'm exaggerating, but not by a ton. You follow those cues. When you follow those cues, what happens is this, and it's magic, right? The magic occurs because then you're able to course correct. I'll use a bunch of sales related cliches. Course correct, pitch, pivot, but you need to because things change. You'll never, you could be prepared like crazy, but you want to be in a position where you don't become a nerve job. And because people feel that, like I said, Dave Walsh talking about, people feel that in their voice. It went from your voice. They feel the nerves, and people don't want that. You're trying to do something, close deals, generate revenue, engage an audience, get repeat business, build and galvanize sales teams, keep people from leaving. And that's why all of these things matter. There's a great expression in a fellowship that I happen to be in. And one of the expressions that's part of that is you never have to go it alone. And it always makes me very sentimental when I hear that. It applies to business too. You never want to be the one just getting up there and winging it when you're giving a sales presentation, a sales meeting, team training, presentations, public speaking. You don't want to be the one winging it. It never works. Or if it works, you're that good. It never works as well as it could if you use these 3 basic tips. And that's where I am today, folks. That's what I had planned, which is those 3 tips, because when you don't do these things, what's the cost? What do you think the cost is? You go in and wing it, stream of conscious. I got a great relationship with this person. I don't need to be prepared. They would tell me if they needed anything. They would tell me if something was awry. What could go wrong? Here's your answer. They may not tell you. They may not bother. They may not have the time. They may not feel it's their responsibility. But you know how you know? You either don't get the business, you don't get the calls back, you get those distractions, and then you have to guess what the hell's going on. And this is all the sense of sealing the deal. When I talk about optimizing your communications by leveraging your voice, that's exactly what I mean. And folks, I am delighted that you invested the time with me. I'm going to drop a link into the chat right now. Here's what I'm going to offer. It's an opportunity. I'm putting my calendar right in front of you. Simply like this. Point blank, what I'm offering is an opportunity to converse with me. It's your own free coaching session. You want to optimize your own communications? We can talk specifics. We can literally talk as it regards to your specific client situations. Are you leading a team? Are you part of a team? Do you want to improve your standing? Are you afraid of losing ground? Do you want to close more business? I'm going to leave you with this. Doing a little bit of backwards math. I realized, and I don't tell you this to impress you, but God, I sometimes need it to impress me when I'm not having the best of days, is I'm grateful that I either directly was responsible for or led the specific teams responsible for in excess of $150 million. That's being conservative. And again, it was $150 million or more over the 25 plus years that I was in the field. So I've seen things go well. I have felt things go well, and I've seen things go badly. And typically, you know how they go badly? They don't call you back. The clients don't call you back. You don't get the sale. You have no idea why. That's where I can help you. We can talk about your own specific speaking situations. You probably bring a lot of great things to the table. Maybe it's just a simple tweak, a shift, a pivot. That's where I can help you. And folks, click the link. It's that simple. I'll make the time. We'll talk about whatever the hell you want. And I am really grateful that I had the chance today to work with you. So folks, before I sign out, remember, we have 2 more days. This is a 5-day blitz. We're now through day 3. I've left days 1, 2, and now day 3 will all be available. If you want to go back and review, tighten up a little bit in regards to notes, what have you, they don't have to be done sequentially. But the fact of the matter is, so far we've got 9, a minimum, I think it's more, a minimum of 9, 10 at least solid tips that I think you could work with. But again, I'm really thrilled that you made the time for me today. I'm going to sign out. I promised you 30, 45 minutes. We are not at 40, and I'm going to give you the rest of your day back. Join me tomorrow. I'll be back at 12 noon. John Duffin here, Duffin Media, Duffin Coaching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. Be well, all. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.